Welcome back to Speak Pact. We are super excited that you're with us today. We're going to talk about how to grow your confidence as a speaker, how to utilize this beautiful instrument of your voice in a way that projects, especially if you happen to be maybe a little bit more timid, right? When you very first walk out there on stage. We have an expert on the subject of confident speaking with confidence and greater power and really stepping into your voice in a whole new way that everyone in the audience can feel. She is the author of Delight in the Limelight. I love the tagline. I'll let you share that in a moment, Linda, but we have Linda Ugelow with us. Thank you for being with us today.
I'm glad to be here, Antoniette.
Well, I caught sight of your book somewhere along the way, and I thought I just really need to have you on Speak Pact because I think a lot of us are out there. We're professionals. We know our stuff, and we know we shouldn't worry. You're right. We shouldn't worry about what other people are thinking, but there's something about being in that limelight that tends to create a bit of a dread. And tell me, it's dread to delight. Is that what your tagline?
Well, it's not the tagline of the book. The tagline of the book is overcome your fear of being seen and realize your dreams. But yes, what I do is help people go from the sense of dread to delight because as a performer of 4 decades, I know that being on stage and having the attention on you actually can create a peak experience for us. And what we need to do is create the elements that allow that to happen.
You were somebody who was terrified about being in front of people and
I
about getting
was
on stage.
terrified to speak in front of people. Yes.
What made you embrace that and actually make a career of helping other people who are the same way, right? They know they want to get their voice out there, but it's just that hurdle for them. Tell to bring us down that road a little bit with you.
I had been a performer for over 35 years at the time, and even though I felt completely comfortable when I was dancing, I could have if we were performing overseas and we were on their national TV and there'd be 6 or 7 honking cameras on me, I was totally comfortable. No issue at all. I could just be present and allow myself to be seen. However, and I was also a singer. I had mixed feelings about the singing. However, speaking, I was unambivalently afraid. And even having to introduce a song from stage made me want to run away. When I became an online coach back in 2014, I knew that I was going to have to build a following some way. And that meant I got to talk to people online. And so I needed to reach out to people and be visible so people could follow me. And at that point in my career, I had gotten to the place. So originally, I spent like 15 years, like totally avoiding any kind of speaking. But then I got to a place where I thought, okay, I'm going to do this because it's impactful, but I'm afraid. And I thought, okay, that's okay. I will white knuckle through it. I'll do deep breathing and meditation and power poses, all these things, knowing that I would get through it. So in 2015, my video mentor said, there's this incredible new technology out there called live streaming. And the first live streaming app was Periscope. I don't know if you remember Periscope, Antoniette.
I don't.
So, of course, live streaming today is common on every platform, including right now, we're live streaming. But back then it was completely novel. And all the marketing gurus said, you got to get on every day to build your following. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get on every day and do this, even though I'm afraid. I was part of a group that had a hashtag do it scared. So I liked having that group, that other people were afraid like me, and we were just going to get out there and do it. And, I have to admit, I assumed that after a few weeks or a month, I would feel completely confident and relaxed and like I knew what I was doing. And it turned out that 10 weeks later, it was day 75. I'm about to press broadcast. And here every day, I'm like doing these meditations and deep breathing and the power poses to get myself able to get on without hyperventilating. And about to press broadcast on this day 75. And I'm realizing my heart is racing, just like it did
Mm.
the very first week. And I thought, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this picture. How come this isn't working? Why aren't I getting out of this nervousness and anxiety? And it's not like it was keeping me from doing it, but was keeping me from enjoying it. It was keeping me from being able to really be present and focused on who I was speaking to and how I wanted to express myself. It was keeping me very limited. So I said, I don't want to manage my fear anymore. I want to get rid of my fear. So I made this long list. I thought, I've got to have tools for this. How can I do this? So I made a long list of all the self help tools. I also have a master's degree in expressive arts therapy. I thought, let's see what I've got in my toolbox. I made this long list and I thought, wow, I've got a lot of things on my tool list. I'm sure this is going to work. But before I get into it, what is this fear? And that's when I decided to use the first tool in my toolbox, which is called focusing, where you close your eyes. And I closed my eyes to connect with the fear. And I asked, if the fear could talk, what would it say? And what
Mm.
came back was, you're going to be attacked. And suddenly I had a memory of my sisters attacking me every time my mom put me on a pedestal and said, why can't you girls be more like Linda?
Ah.
So, of course, they didn't like that. And next thing, they would attack me, kick me in the shins, say, shut up, stupid. And I thought, of course, I don't feel comfortable with the attention on me because I learned it was dangerous to be the center of attention.
Mm.
Then it was like, well, duh. Maybe this is what the fear of speaking is all about. Maybe it's not about what's happening in the moment. Of course, there are dangerous situations. There are high stakes situations.
Mhm.
However, most situations are not, and yet we still persevere with our anxiety. So maybe it's about the connections to the past where we were led to believe it wasn't safe. I started to comb my background. I remembered times I was bullied in school where I was ignored and rejected. When I saw other people getting to the front of the class, not knowing the answer and being laughed at. And I thought, oh man, I don't want that to happen to me. So, of course, when I was up there, I was afraid because I saw it happening to someone else. It doesn't even have to be your own trauma, it could be what you saw from someone else. And of course, we've got school that's grading us on every single thing we do, and not just grading us on everything we do, but we become afraid of making mistakes. So that creates even more tension in us. So it's no wonder why a majority of people in our country and around the world feel nervous when they get in front of people because we've been programmed through experiences, in our families and at school and the system and the media and all these kind of cliches of silence is golden. Don't talk back to your elders. If you don't have
Yeah.
anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And we all want to be good and
Be seen, not heard.
right, be seen, not heard. And that closes us to the possibilities that
Yeah.
we could have.
I'm so okay. So you focused in on what the heck. You asked yourself, what's the worst? What's the worst that could happen? Right?
Well, I asked, what is this fear trying to say?
What is this fear trying to say? I love that. So now you've identified some trauma spots.
Hmm.
How do you get past that? What do you do next?
Well, I take a multimodality approach. So when I happened to know certain things at the time. I knew something called EFT, emotional freedom technique. Some people know it as tapping. I've been doing creative visualization and journaling and forgiveness. So I just kind of I just tried them all out because, as I said, I wanted to get rid of this and I didn't know which would work. So I did everything that I could think of. And I don't know which it was, but I do know that after 5 days, I didn't have a racing heart at all. And the following week, when I got on after a very rushed day, rushing around town, I heard myself say, "I'm so glad I get to get on camera with you all now because I can just relax."
Mm.
I thought, "Wow, I like that." And then the next performance I had with my Women's World Music Group, when it was a song that came up that I needed to introduce, I had the thought, "Oh, good, it's my turn to speak."
Mm.
And it was like without all of that stuff from the past that was kind of lurking around inside me, once that was gone, I felt I was free. I was free to just be in the present and be in the moment and enjoy the moment.
So, what are some key differences you've seen in your career since really kind of facing that giant, slaying that giant? To I'm sure there's moments where it tries to roar itself back up, but now you've got the tools. You've got your toolkit and you've got the tools. Where do you think you would be career wise now had you not faced that? And in all sense and purposes, you actually overcame it. Um, how has that helped your career as an author,
Wha
as a
it
coach?
it created my career, actually. I
Mhm.
It's an interesting question that you ask of where would you be without it? I just don't know. I I can't even imagine because it's kind of like the road not taken, how do you know where would that be? But
Mhm.
what I do know is that once I had this kind of sense of inner freedom, I felt like the world was my oyster. I became a public speaker. I started to take speaking courses because that was not my I was not a public speaker. I didn't know about public speaking. Once I had this experience myself and I started to share with other people, it wasn't like I was, immediately thinking, "Oh, this is how I wanna help people." Not at It was the opposite. It was like, "Oh, no, I don't wanna niche down to this. I don't wanna just do this. This is too narrow. This is too limited." And it took me an entire year of people saying, "Oh, you were able to get over your fear. Could you help me?"
Mm.
"Oh, I'm a public speaker. Would it help me?" And I'm thinking, "I'm not a public speaker, but let's try." And then once it did help them, I thought, "Oh, I have a feeling I'm gonna have to help more public speakers, and if I'm gonna help public speakers, I better
You
know
need to be
about
one.
public speaking." So that's when I started to take I think I've taken, I don't know, 7 or 9 public speaking courses. And and what I loved about it is that I felt like I could absorb the information without having that barrier of needing to get over my fear. So when people, my coach would say, "Okay, Linda, come up to the stage." I wasn't having that panic attack that I could see other people having. I felt like, "Okay, I can just come up here. What do I do? Direct me. What do you need from me?" And I could have that sense of open curiosity and being in a place of this is about me learning what it is to express myself in the world. I could look back and see, "Oh, I was a child who hardly spoke at all." I didn't really start to speak until I was 20 to
Wow.
anyone, to anyone. No one asked me questions. I didn't put myself forth. I lived in a house where everybody else took up a lot of space, and I thought, "I don't wanna compete."
Mm.
I
Wow.
had friends that were, really gregarious. I thought, "I don't wanna compete." I was the
Okay.
listener. I was the listener. So, where it took me was it created my career. It opened up, I thought, "Okay, I can be on radio, I can be on TV, I can be on podcasts, I can be on stage, I can have fun telling stories, with my friends." I didn't even do that. I used to rush through if I had something to say because I didn't wanna burden people. I didn't wanna take up too much space.
I love that you forced yourself to go through that journey because how many people's lives would not be affected in a positive way had you not? And that is the power of our voice, right? And you discovering yours in that new way has now helped so many others discover their own. So, okay, so that first tool to overcoming the trepidation of getting putting yourself in the spotlight is basically focusing.
Yes, I would say I call it reveal and heal. So we reveal what those impacting experiences experiences were, the messages were, and then we do whatever we can in some creative way, whether it's the tools that I use or hypnotherapy or energy healing or whatever, poetry, make up your own ritual, you have to heal it. That's number 1. Number 2 would be step 2 or phase 2 of the I call it the inner freedom framework is restoring a sense of safety. And I see this mostly in how we think that the feeling of unsafety is around us, but we create not feeling safe inside of us by our inner dialogue. So we do need to examine that as well and look at ways that we can shift our inner mean boy or inner mean girl into a staunch ally because we could, of course, we want to be supported by the people around us, but no one can be there for us 100% of the time. But you can be there for you 100% of the time. So you have to, it's like you need to build your communication skills, your relationship skills to yourself. So you are that staunch supporter. You are that best mentor or the most caring, nurturing parent to yourself.
Okay, that's brilliant because so often we're our own worst enemy and we don't even realize it. And it is that inner talk. Oh gosh, yeah, it's a bad hair day, or I've gained 5 pounds, or the speaker before me and after me are just so good, right? They're just we that inner dialogue is so powerful. And I love the way that you said become your own best ally, your staunch supporter, that person who's rallying you. It's so simple, yet do we do it? How often do we
Yeah. And
really talk
we
to ourselves?
deserve it. Anyone if you're listening, you deserve it. You are deserving of that.
Yes, restoring that inner safety.
Mhm.
Love that. Okay, so I know you've got a bunch of tools in your inner freedom framework. I encourage our listeners to go and check out Delight in the Spotlight. I think you're probably on Amazon and all the good places.
Yes, delight in the limelight. Uh-huh.
Um, what is good? You want to give us one more?
Well, the part
Cool.
3 is to repattern our habits because when we've lived in a limited space, it affects how we stand, how we breathe, how we speak. So, if you are come from a place where you are afraid of being interrupted, you might speak really fast because you don't want someone to interrupt you. Or if you, like me, didn't want to compete, you might speak with a very soft voice because you didn't want to be too loud. So, whatever it is, your default habits, we need to swap them out for different habits.
Mm.
So, we want to feel open in our bodies. We want to feel open in our voices. We want to feel like we have the kind of energy of expansion and open-heartedness and generosity and like how do you envision the best way that you want to see yourself speaking and use that in your imagination like a mental rehearsal is something that athletes do, olympians, musicians, performers of all kinds, and speakers can use it too to so that when you prepare yourself to speak, you're not just preparing the words or the blocking or the movements, but you're also opening up your physical body, your vocal capacity and your the energy that you're bringing so that you feel like when you are speaking, you can fully be present in the moment to express yourself just the way you want to express yourself. And it may be different every time.
Okay, that was brilliance right there. And I hope I don't want to gloss over that because it's so important. So yes, we prepare our words, our presentation. That's important to have that down. But what's as equally important, and that probably a lot of speakers don't do, is preparing your body and your energy for the delivery. And that leads right into something I've been wanting to talk with you about because I think that it's also something that doesn't get included in a lot of the speaker trainings. and that is your master's in expressive arts therapy. Part of that I know is the way that you really have a way to tap into the power of the inflection of your voice and how
Mhm.
you utilize that. But talk to us a little bit about how expression and energy, how can we tap into that? How can we find our unique ways of expressing so that, not for ourselves, right? But so that our message can be better received from the audience.
Well, I actually want to say yes for ourselves because speaking should be a pleasure.
Mm,
Speaking can feel satisfying. We are expressing ourselves. When you express yourselves, I mean, just think that every sentence we say is on the exhale. It's like a release. And our vocal production creates vibration in our body. That's another pleasure.
mm,
What if we thought of, wow, I can speak and I'm actually doing some kind of inner healing that's kind of mysterious, but's happening at the same time? I feel like I like to go inside first before going outside. For instance,
mm.
if you clear the stuff away from the reveal and heal and the restoring safety, you have more capacity for the audience, but you've done it by taking care of yourself first. The same thing with our voice. So I like helping people connect with their voice, the actual vocal production, the feeling of it, the sensing of it, the pleasure of it, so that every syllable deser- deserves to be heard. Every syllable has its place in time. And when we are able to give ourselves over to the delicious diction and the connection that we feel and play around with the different tonalities that we can use. So for instance, I'm using a microphone. So I am able to get into this kind of round, ringing, soft sound. But if I wasn't with a microphone, I would want to get more into the sense of edginess in my voice that would be able to carry to the far side of the room,
Yes.
right? Or if I want to just be a little more squeezy about something I say, because it's just the kind of tastiness that I want to get at. It's like we can be a tour guide with how we use our voices that express it. The audience knows what we want to highlight as important and understands our feeling by the way we use our tonality and the character and tone and all the other things, volume and melody. And but the more we play around with and explore, the more tools we have to use.
Oh, that's so much fun. Okay. So, number one, connecting with yourself on in an
Vocal,
inner way
yes, connecting with your inner vocal production.
so that you can connect with the audience in a deeper
Yes,
way.
yes.
I love how you said be a tour guide, basically a tour guide through your message
hmm
by the way you express yourself
hmm
through your message and delicious diction and tastiness. So much fun. So, how did you find your voice?
Well, I've taken singing lessons for 40 years every single week. So that gave me a lot of intellectual understanding. But I have to say, it wasn't until I started chapter 11 in my book, which is called The Breath We Take and the Sounds We Make, that I began to really deconstruct what it is to connect with our vocal production. And this totally transformed my own experience of speaking. So what I did, and I have, as I said, I've just taken so many voice lessons and workshops and over the years, and my only complaint was that nobody, when in my private lessons, nobody could really comprehend how basic I needed to go. I was so disconnected from my vocal production that I was always kind of asked to do things that were beyond my capability and not realizing I needed to go. back to what is the touch of breath across my vocal folds. Just a little hum, a little mm. And for weeks, I just laid in bed and going, and I tried to feel what is happening in my throat. When I do that, at first I felt nothing at all. And then finally, I started to feel some sensation there. And then the sensation grew and it became more tangible to me. And then suddenly it was as if every time I opened my mouth, I felt this connection to my vocal production.
Mm.
So that's what I
I don't know that a whole lot of speakers have thought about their vocal production.
mhm.
They think about the words that they're going to say,
Yes.
but not how the words are gonna sound.
Yes, and you're pointing for those who are listening to this, you're pointing to your throat, and that's where the source of the sound is. However, we actually the power of the sound comes from further down. Of
Mm,
course, it's from our ribs and our abdomen and all the muscles in our upper body and even like the strength in our legs can be part of it. So we're actually speaking with our whole bodies. And we tend to just think we're speaking from our minds. We're
yes.
not. So I've been recently working a lot with people who want to transform the sound of their voice. A lot of people who speak with vocal fry, people who are a little more down here, and this is very common. You hear it all over the airwaves.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize that they can shift out of that and into a more resonant voice, which allows us to not work so hard to hear what they're saying.
I love that you said that. I see this in women especially. I'd like to know if you have come across this. Probably some childhood thing that if you're cute and you talk like a little girl, you're gonna get, I don't know, hugged up more. I don't know. But so many women I notice will just talk cute like a little girl. And I'm just like, come on, just own your voice. It is strong. Or maybe they were just somehow picked up the message along the way that women are supposed to be softer, whatever it might be. So have you come across that with women, maybe women and men? Maybe some men haven't really stepped into that kind of bigger power of their voice because they don't want to be overbearing, or they want to be loved. I don't just there's some political candidates out there right now. And of course, that's all over everywhere because when we're airing this, we're in that season. And it's just like, I would really like to listen to what you're saying, but I just can't get past your voice.
Yeah, I know, and it's unfortunate, and sometimes, people have vocal issues, and so it it feels much more out of their control.
Yeah.
What I hear what I make of it is that it's all part of our programming and patterning. We have our physical, we come into this world with our physical capabilities, but we learn from number 1, how we're praised, which I think you're talking about. We might get positive feedback for being cute, so we wanna stay cute. Or we might say, "Oh, you have such a squeaky voice," and then we try to go down here and and then or we women going into corporate and they feel in order to be taken seriously, they need to have a lower voice. They don't know how to bring the resonance down into a lower voice. And so they go into this kind of creaky place, the rumble, gravel, whatever you want to call it, vocal fry. Men do it too. Not just women. Men do it too. I can bring up any number of men who speak with vocal fry or who aren't. I mean, it's it's common that we're not connected with our voices because we're not taught to.
Yeah.
At all. We're taught how to say the words mostly. I mean, I think that most adults even have a few words like, "How do you say that? I've never known how to say that word." But that's probably as far as we get.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, because if you have any young child in your life, you know that a 2-year-old or 1-year-old, 3-year-old, they love the sound of their voice. They love making sounds. They delight in it. And then somehow it becomes unimportant and they kind of lose that connection because they become worried about doing the right thing.
What a neat concept. It's you're connecting to your own voice and
Mhm.
the way that you were just letting yourself hear the sound of your voice doing that practice that you did. Yeah, that's something I'm going to soak into. And yes, there's a big difference between somebody who chooses to not step into the power of their voice and then somebody like Robert Kennedy, who I adore, right? I think that I applaud the fact that he's got this spastic whatever and he is still getting his voice out there. Like, no excuses. Nobody would slight him if he decided, how am I going to get out there and speak in the public? I can,
That's right.
a
It is
stutterer.
something, it is something to admire because so many people would let that stop them. They'd say,
Yes.
I can't because my voice is like this."
Yeah. I can't,
So
I can't. And
mhm.
there's no, I can't. I've seen stutterers who just to try to hold a conversation with you, it'd be really hard to get a conversation out. But when they get in front of crowds, it's like they talk flawlessly. Or if they sing, they'll speak flawlessly. I don't know what the dynamic is there, but that I admire. I admire the man with absolutely no arms and no legs who gets in front on big stages and dances for people. Like, I admire that, no excuses. But it's when we have a powerful voice and we don't step into it, that's where I kind of lose a little bit of patience.
Come on already. Get with it.
Like,
Don't let
don't
it hold you back.
exactly. And just discovering your unique voice, not through your voice. I'm pointing again to my vocal cords, but through your whole body
Mm.
and that holistic element that you brought in, Linda, with it's it's more than just the words. It's about the energy you're also bringing, the emphasis, the expression, all of it. So I love that you've blended your performance world, right? Singing, dancing, with your journey to being a front of stage speaker and actually embracing it and being delighted and excited about doing that. So that leads right into, I know there's a good number of people in our audience at this point who would like to know, how can they reach out to you? Where do you like to be found the most? How do they find your book? All the good things.
Well, my website, lindaugelow.com, Ugelow. Also, I do have a free speaker preparation checklist of all those other kinds of preparations that you can do besides just practicing what you want to say. That helps you remember, oh yes, okay, warm up my body, warm up my voice. I can do this kind of meditation. I can do make up a mantra, all these things to get your energy and your mind and body in the right place so that you can bring the best when you get in front of people. So that is at lindaugelow.com/rituals.
Okay, we'll make sure that that gets in the show notes for those who are just listening and don't have a pen. Make sure to grab that. Along with that, we always create what we call speaker smart sheets that go along with the interview. And I've written already 7 pages of notes. So
Mhm.
I'll synopsize some of those and they can grab that as well. And Linda's link will be in the speaker smart sheet as well. What else should we know if we're a high, let's say, because you're a high performing professional, you just hadn't figured out that love for the spotlight quite yet, right? So how does what is one more thing that you can give to high performing professionals who know they've got a message, who know they have solutions that people want to hear, and they want to start stepping into their voice? What are some incremental steps that they can take to get themselves across that what might seem like a chasm?
I would recommend thinking about, where do you feel most comfortable speaking right now? Is it with a certain family member or a certain friend or colleague? And begin to bring more awareness to taking up space, enjoying the sound of your voice, feeling relaxed and present in your body in those environments. Because the more awareness that you can build in the places where you feel inside your comfort zone, you'll be able to bring that same experience to other places that may feel less familiar or less comfortable to you.
And if someone discovers, you know what, I was put down a lot as a kid, or I was teased when I would speak up, how how do you clear those? Like, how can you begin clearing those? You had mentioned EFT, you'd mentioned some things, but if there was like one core thing that wasn't too woo woo for the average of us, what would you say? Start here.
Well, this is my whole chapter 5 is how do you clear these things away?
Okay, good,
Chapter
good, good.
5 of Delight in the Limelight. If I was to pick one thing, I would say forgiveness. I would say if it involved someone else to write down, "I forgive you, mom," or "I forgive you, Andrew," or whoever it was for XYZ, and to go through all the ways or all the people that you feel s have eroded your confidence, that you use this technique, and to do it for yourself as well. To say, "I forgive you, Linda, for not knowing how to handle that situation. I forgive you for not practicing enough, or I forgive you for not knowing the best way to, react when something distracting happened." Or so and to take that in, to allow yourself that grace of forgiveness.
Ooh, that is good. That is not where I thought you were going to go. And it is so powerful and so important when we're holding on to something. Forgiveness is basically letting go,
Mhm.
right? Anytime we hold on to something, it's stuck somewhere, which has an effect
Mhm.
within our
Yeah.
ecosystem.
And it's also opening our heart to
Mhm.
compassion, especially when it comes to ourselves.
So, and you brought up forgive that person who might have made you feel start second guessing your own
Yeah.
voice, but forgiving yourself.
Mhm.
Huge. Forgiving
Mhm.
yourself. I think we often overlook that one.
Yeah.
How do you forgive yourself? Like, what do you say to yourself?
2 ways. One is I I have this tool that every night I think of 5 things that I'm proud of from the day, and I think of 5 things I forgive myself for the day. So I'd say practice forgiving yourself. So I practice saying, I forgive myself for having my phone go off in the middle of the podcast. I forgive myself for not sending out that email or completing this thing. I forgive myself for not going for a walk today. And if you forgive yourself for easier things, it's easier to forgive yourself for bigger things too. So I'd say practice.
Ooh, practice. Okay. Well, that leads us into our signature question, right? And that is we are on a collective pact to make the biggest impact possible with our voices. What would you say to someone who is maybe stepping out of a larger career, stepping or wants to bring speaking alongside maybe a bigger career, a bigger set of accomplishments, and begin making an impact beyond that tighter radius, wanting to maybe go a bit more global? What are some first steps for them to make a greater impact with their voices?
I would say nothing is too small to practice. And to honor that you are on your own journey. Nobody else has the same journey as you. So know that this is yours, this is your path, and you just take one step at a time. What is that first step? Is it something that you do for yourself? Like, as I mentioned, enjoy the speaking that you already do with your best friend or your friend group? Or is it taking a class or getting in touch with a coach or reading my book, Delight in the Limelight, or listening to your Antoniette's podcast? That know that everything you do is moving yourself forward, and honor and accept and appreciate the journey that you're on.
Yeah, beautiful way to close that. And some people might see these as some soft skills, but soft skills are powerful. And let's embrace them, right? Over and above getting the presentation down right, getting all the words down right, getting your bullet points all straight in your head. Focus on focusing, focus
Mm,
on forgiving, focus on embracing, and I believe the more we focus on those who are going to be receiving our information, the less afraid we become, because it becomes more about them receiving the message than how we might be looked at, or perceived, or even judged. You're in the limelight, you're in the spotlight, you're going to get judged. And as we go down our journey, we have friends at different parts of our lives. And I will say, the friends that I've released along the way are those who are petty. Oh, look at that person's, they're wearing they're wearing black during the summer, whatever, some little stupid thing.
Judgmental.
Judgmental. Yeah, I'm not interested, because you're missing the deeper, right?
Mhm.
You're missing the beautiful qualities of that person, or the other things that they bring to the table. So that's a bit of forgiveness as well. I forgive and release pettiness, and I'm gonna be unaffected by it, because I'm going to go out there, give my best message for that one person who's in the audience, whose life might be forever transformed by what I bring them to them today, unapologetically, not through a veil of self self judgment, right? But instead, just open to give however much I can give. And you really brought that to the table today. Speaking is a very holistic process. And you brought all of those different elements. And I know we've just touched on the surface. Your book goes much deeper. You've got a podcast, don't you?
Yes, also called Delight in the Limelight.
Delight in the Limelight. Look up her podcast. She's on all the majors. And I know you're on LinkedIn. Linda Ugelow, which is a
Ugelow.
fabulous name for you.
Thank you.
Ugelow. Ugelow. Um, Look her up, because if you got a little out of today, which, if you were listening, you did, then you're going to get so much more as you reach out to her. So thank you for coming today and sharing your insights, Linda.
It's been my pleasure, Antoniette. Thank you.
And for all of those who have been with us on this journey today, why don't you give Linda some flowers by liking, posting it forward? There's probably someone in your world who needs to hear this message right now. Follow her podcast, follow Speak Pact, and do us the most amazing favor and get your voice out there. Ciao, ciao for now.